Hi guys, this is Eric from Ion Software, and in this tutorial you're going to learn how to create some motion graphic thing like this, and obviously all that can be used in all those types of scanners, screen replacements, etc. You can build quite fancy stuff out of that, and the trick is we're going to use a couple of expressions here. So that's all about motion graphics and how to solve some things with expressions, because this entire thing is controlled by just this single angle slider on the transform tool here. So let's start over and create this thing from scratch. Well, as you've seen, we started off with a background tool, and let me bring this down a bit. I want this to be square, so just go to my image settings and set that to 1000 by 1000 pixels, and in my color I want to have something like this. So the first thing I want to create are those lines that move to the left and to the right. To do that, I just add a brightness contrast, bring red, green, blue and alpha gain down, and add a rectangular mask to that, which I set to invert. Let's bring this down a bit. Maybe 0.02 is nice, and a height of 0.25 maybe, and move this down to the bottom of the screen, like so. And well, since you know, in Fusion everything is based on values between 0 and 1 in terms of screen coordinates. Actually, this could be a little bit smaller. Since I have a height of the rectangle here of 0.125, sorry, a height of 0.25, if I want to have it at the very bottom of the screen like so, I could actually go into my Y value here and type 0.25 divided by 2, and there it sits at the very bottom of my screen. Right, so now we actually build our transform tool here to get the rotation like so. But I also want a second line on the opposite side. So what I do here is I take my merge tool and pipe the transform into the background input and the output of my brightness contrast into the foreground input of the merge. And now we'll add our first expression. Well, there are different ways to counter motion of this original line here, but well, let's go for this one. So what we do is we just type an equal sign in the angle value of the merge and hit return, and then I connect this to the angle of the original transform tool. Well, now obviously those move exactly into the same position, so I want to have the negative angle, so just type minus transform 1 dot angle in there, and now I can already control the offset here of my lines, moving nicely in counter directions. Right, the next thing we need to build is that area in between that automatically changes shape and changes size when I move my transforms angle here. So of course we start off from the same background tool. I add another brightness contrast, do basically the same, bring the gain down here in red, green, blue and alpha. Then I add another rectangular mask here, set that to invert, and after that I place a coordinate space tool. Set it to polar to rectangular and merge that with the output of my original image. If I now adjust the rectangle, you can see that I can somehow create this circle here, but obviously, well, the angle is a bit off, so I go to my merge and adjust the angle to minus 90 degrees. Like so. So what I want this to have more like a gradient in this area. So just add another rectangular mask and give a bit of a soft edge to that. Actually, I give quite a lot of soft edge to it, and then make it rather big and cover the entire screen. If I now want to animate the size of the gradient here to interactively follow my transform's angle, there are a couple of ways I can do that. So I'm going to make this a bit easier, actually by setting my original rectangle to the full extent of the screen. Then I've got my mask here, like so. Make that a little bit bigger. And then I add a transform tool. And in this transform tool, which goes right in front of the coordinate space, I uncheck U size and aspect. So I've got an individual X size and Y size slider here. And I want to modify my X size. And the X size again should be linked to the angle control of my original transform here. Well, linking it directly to the angle doesn't make any sense, because then I would have an X size of 49, stretching my thing out. So what I want to do is actually want to divide this by 180. So that transform now scales my image down. It goes then into the coordinate space and finally back on top of the merge, which means with this single transform here, I can now control not only the lines but also the gradient in the middle. Well, let's add a bit more here. So what I want to have is maybe another rectangle here that defines just the outer edge, maybe. Like so. Bring it to full width. Scale of 0.1. Something like that. And then maybe bring the level down a bit. And maybe some soft edge. Like so. That already looks quite nice. So then you've seen we had that actual degree displayed down here. So we do that with the text plus tool. Set that to 1000 by 1000 as well. Merge it on top here. Well, not as a mask obviously, but just like so. Let's write something like 100. And pick the color from the background, so we actually have the same color in the text as we have it in the background tool. Bring it down a little bit. Change a font, like say Eurostyle, or not really elegance. 100 degrees. Right, of course we need an expression in here as well. So I right click here and say expression. And Fusion automatically adds an expression that already matches the text I've put in the style text field so far. But well, this doesn't help me because it's not dynamic. So what I want to do is I want to connect this to the angle of my merge tool here. So this goes on here. So that's text merge1 dot angle. However, I don't want to have those floating point values. So I add a mathematical expression here, math with an H obviously, math floor, which gives me the nearest full integer value of the value I pipe in here. And I also want to add that degree sign. Well, the degree sign is obviously a normal text, so 2 dots, concatenate text, and within parentheses I put my degree sign. So now I get a negative value. I want to have a positive value though. So I add another mathematical expression, which is the absolute. So math dot absolute, open brackets, close brackets. And now I have the positive integer value here. Let's switch this to high quality. And as I said before, this entire thing is now controlled just by the angle of my original transform tool here. Well, you could add glows with animated masks as I did in the original setup, so download the COM, play around with that. And for that automatic behavior, you could just modify the angle, for example, with a shake and say a minimum value of 20, so that would be our minimum opening angle here, and a maximum of say 80. Randomize, bring down the smoothness a little bit, maybe like something like that, and hit play. And there you go, everything controlled just via one controller, linked via connections to the text and to the transform up here that actually scales our gradient background. Hope you enjoyed this one, and see you next time. Bye.